John.
Hey Karen, you look amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks to our new makeup artist. Since we hit 50 million views, we were able to get makeup artists.
I know.
And I feel like I look phenomenal too.
You look so good. I love what she did with your eyes.
Thank you.
Really brings them out.
Thank you. So what are we going to talk about today, Karen?
Well, I thought we would start with the Heisenberg's, with an apostrophe S, uncertainty principle.
Ooh, my forte of the last couple weeks.
So tell me your take on it.
So
What is it?
just as I understand a brief overview as far as the quantum physics is concerned, it basically is a mathematical formula which says you cannot know both the position of a particle and the vector or direction or speed. There's a couple different synonyms they use for it. But basically you can't know where a particle is and you can't know where the particle is going simultaneously. You have to pick one of the 2 points to measure where it is, or the vector, the direction, the speed it's heading, and get the measurement. And the more refined your measurement is of one of those 2 points, the less refined or calculable the other point is. And when I read this formula, it immediately jumped out at me and excited me so much because I saw the direct application to life in the idea you can only really be focusing on one thing at a time. Some people say they're multitaskers, and that's true, but I think most of the multitasking research has said you're not actually doing things simultaneously. You're hopping from one task to another in like micro bursts, but at any given second, your focus is only on one specific task. So within the Heisenberg idea, either you're looking at where you are as a state of being, as a person, as a job, as a whatever element related to your life, or you're looking at the future and where you're going. But you can't be in your present moment of lack and simultaneously focused on where you're going, which presumably most of us are going to abundance. Or you can't be looking closely and closely measuring your point of illness and looking forward to your healing simultaneously. You have to pick one, and the more you focus on that one point, the less you're able to focus on the other point. And I kind of almost see it like a dimmer switch, maybe like fading on, fading off. So you really juice up where I'm going, I'm perfectly healed, and you dim down where I am right now so far that it no longer becomes the point of focus.
That's interesting because when you're talking about it, for me, it's more like it's all the way on or it's all the way off. Can you have half focus on something? As it goes up and down, can you really have half a focus?
That's valid.
Didn't you just like contradict yourself?
I did contradict myself. Maybe we should start this whole video over as a result
Never.
of a contradiction.
We
can pull it from the ashes. That actually is a very good point. It kind of doesn't make sense, like the dimmer thing. Yeah, I guess you're really focusing
It's like
on one or the other.
on or off.
Let's keep it clean like that. Yes, it's either on or off.
Yes.
Yes.
Clean.
Yes.
That's not even in your vocabulary, John. So how do we apply it?
I think it's all we've been discussing before. It's all Dr. Joe. It's all Abraham Hicks. It's all Bashar. You're either embracing the imagination and the state of being of your future self as it pertains to whatever element you wish to change about your life, or you're fixated on what is. And I love Abraham's line, you become intoxicated with what is to the point where it becomes impossible for it to change. I was listening to some great session with her on YouTube as I was driving to LA to see Bashar last weekend, and some guy came on with such conviction, like the whole world's going to shit, everything's fucked up, people are starving, like he was committed to the thing. And her response was very powerful, and I appreciated it a lot in that she said, you're right, because we know all truths are true, you can pick to experience anything. And she was saying, you're serving as a great example to everybody that when you have complete conviction and know, as it relates to Heisenberg, maybe what you're looking at, it becomes literally impossible for you to be able to see or perceive any other like point of change or any other place you could go to as a result of that.
Yeah, totally. And it's so true in Course in Miracles also. It's like love or fear. It's not both. It's like you get to choose in every single moment which thing you're going to focus on.
Yes.
Which one you want to be.
Yes. And I love that quantum physics, it's a proven, I kept like Googling, is this proven in the last week? And it's a proven mathematical equation. Or I guess as we learn in science though, it's like, yes, it's proven, but then so many scientific facts and calculations that were proven then become disproven, which actually lends paradoxically, it lends more credibility to the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in and of itself. It's saying when you're looking at one point, it's proven, but as soon as you decide you're going to measure a new point that you're going towards, something happens in the reality which makes the point that's proven previously become disprovable, and then you find a new higher truth. And it's amazing when you really like drill into science how many people don't realize there is no objective fact. Throughout history, there's been huge periods where it was known the earth was flat. It was known, all these different things. It was known gods in the sky caused the weather. Like all these things were just known, and people would say you're a complete friggin' idiot if you agreed to the contrary. But then new facts arise and new things are proven because people looked in different directions. So like, is anything proven? I don't know. But for the case in point, I love that Heisenberg kind of like paradoxically disproves and reproves itself.
Yeah, I love it. I believe there's evidence present for whatever truth you choose to embrace. And your subconscious mind is a beautiful example of that. Like whatever you are looking for evidence for, your subconscious mind will bring it into your field of awareness really quickly. So I always tell people, like, what are you looking for evidence for? Like, what truth do you choose to embrace? What do you want your life to be? Because you will find evidence for it. Like, we will be right. We get to be right about whatever we want to be right about.
Yes, I love that so much. And I love that it goes back to our previous discussion where that point of power in allowing myself to say to someone, you know what, you're right. If they're like, life fucking sucks, and you can feel their conviction in it, and then you say, you know what, from that perspective is valid, and you're right, you are experiencing the truth that you put out. And then when everything becomes equal and you recognize all truths are true, is I find the point of power for then being able to make the decision on where I'm going or where I am within myself rather than someone else.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know why it's bringing up for me. Yes, that is, you're right. And then just like leaving.
Yes.
You're right. And I don't choose to be around you.
That's like a baller. I see that as a total baller move. You're like, you're right, here's the basketball. Peace. And you like take off.
I'm taking my stuff and I'm going home.
Yes.
It's so true though. Like for so many years of my life, I was caught in that people-pleasing web.
Yeah.
And I would stay there and listen to people, and I could feel myself contracting and getting smaller and further from the truth.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I've not gotten to that point yet, to the you're right part, but I've gotten to the point where, okay, I can see it your way, and I don't choose to live that way, so I'm going to go over here and play with my people, like who like to play the games that I'm playing, the games that I'm up to.
Yeah. The idea of being unconditional seems so simple. I'm going to choose to maintain this vibration no matter what I'm seeing. The real challenge, and it's an exciting and fun challenge, comes in when you're saturated in a vibration that you don't prefer. And even if you can recognize it, still the constant bombarding of a vibration not to your preference becomes probably increasingly more and more challenging to sit within and still maintain the unconditional focus on what you do prefer. I was having a moment in traffic on a drive back from LA. I don't spend much time in LA, but I decided to drive through LA mid-afternoon, and the traffic, I guess in my reality, there's a reality where there's no traffic. The reality I was in, I chose to create a bunch of traffic. And I was using it as an opportunity to play with beliefs in recognizing I love the feeling of moving quick and swiftly to where I'm going, as everyone probably does. And I was using it as an opportunity to continue like refocusing and play with beliefs. But it reached a point where I was like, something inside me is like, just get off the road, have a snack, like chill out. You need to remove yourself from this saturation environment and refocus. And even if it's here when you get back, that's fine. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But that idea of like removing yourself, I love.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because for many years of my life, I didn't see that I even had a choice. So I would be in situations and I'm like, I don't like this. And yet I chose it. So I got to finish it. I got to stay here. And no, like I am free to choose again in any moment. It doesn't say I have to finish. If it doesn't feel good, man, and there's no lesson for me there that I'm ready for or wanting, I'm out, man.
I'm loving this.
Peace out.
It's bringing up the idea of responsibility. Are you curious of or interested in diving into that term?
Of course. I love responsibility. No, I really do. I think it's the point of freedom. Like when you choose to become wholly responsible for everything, not just what you think you're creating in your own circle, your own sphere, but everything. We've talked about this a little bit or a lot around the world, every single thing that's happening. When I claim responsibility for that, and only then, I have a choice to change it if I don't like it or to embrace it. Well, first to embrace it. It's like, oh, this is good. It's good. I created it and it is good. And now, do I choose to continue this or do I want to experience something else?
Beautiful. Yeah, that's that power of paradox. If you don't own the fact that you created everything, then how can you change something which you have no control over? So once you take responsibility for it, how do you feel about the mainstream definition of responsibility? Or like perhaps obligation might be a better term?
Yeah.
I think that was what you were speaking to more before, and it was exciting to me to recognize that. I love Bashar's breakdown of the term responsibility. It's your ability to respond. There's no response that's standard or should be taken or must be taken. It's simply your ability to respond in your highest truth in whatever that moment is. But the idea of being obligated to finish something or obligated to wait for someone to speak for 2 hours on something that's way not in a vibration you're interested in consuming, finding the power, maybe responsibility to yourself and to your vibration and recognition of how you create to choose.
Yeah. So I think like society, what I've experienced and noticed is this term, take responsibility. I take responsibility. For me, that term means it's not mine, but I'm going to be the bigger person. I will take it. It's outside of me, and I will take it. I will take responsibility. So for me, when I hear someone say that, I know it's language and everybody says it. It's just, again, it's emphasizing that there's something outside of me. There's something outside of me. It's not mine. I'm going to take it. So I'm big on language.
Yes.
So I am responsible is higher than that. I am responsible.
Yes.
And a lot of times people say, I'm responsible for that. Not very often, right? They don't say that very often. Even when they say that, it's I'm responsible for my side of the street. I'm responsible for my neighborhood, my household, my actions, right?
Yeah.
If I am responsible for everything is the fun part. It's where we get to play. That's I am responsible for the people that are starving in Africa. I am responsible for the wars. I'm responsible for everything.
Yes.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah. And there's paradoxically unity and recognition of all being one within that statement. When you're responsible for all, you recognize we are all one. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what do you think about, you asked me the question about conventional definitions of responsibility.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess how I chose my belief systems unknowingly previously was riddled and deep with the idea of obligation, that if I said I was going to do something when I said I was going to do it, it didn't matter if I had to nearly kill myself to get it done, I was going to get it done. And it's a beautiful truth that I experienced. And it's more fun and exciting now to recognize my truth is of the moment. And if I say something, or if I say I'm going to do something in the future and it seems exciting and aligned at that point, and then the future comes and it's no longer exciting or aligned to do that, I find huge power in being able to let it go and not because I said I would. And I find a lot of relationships come into that idea, like the classic wedding vows are like, no matter how terrible of a person I become and terrible of a person you become, we're gonna be terrible people together. Like, ultimately, I choose Abraham's perspective that my point of attraction draws the experiences to me. So I don't really need to per se leave the other person. It would be more of a shift to recognize within myself. But like entering any relationship from a point of obligation, like I have to, it seems like it creates a structure that's doomed for separation and way more challenges than there need to be. Again, it's all just a flip of perspective in the mind. But as soon as you enter a relationship with like a written contract of obligation, it seems like freedom is my truth. Freedom is the natural state of the human and every soul. So as soon as you're like locking yourself in, I see like challenges inherent in that.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people think, oh, I have security. If I'm married, then I have security. This person can't leave me, and it is like invisible handcuffs. But I want to go back to another point. You were
Yes.
talking about if you agreed to do something and then you change your mind, it doesn't feel aligned anymore. What tool do you use to stay in integrity with yourself?
In terms of, can you go deeper into that?
So what I'm saying is like, for me, if I give my word to something, that is my integrity. And I believe that is foundational for confidence, for self-trust,
Yes.
and to not go back on my word. However, there's a beautiful tool that I use called renegotiation. And I learned it in transformational leadership. And it is that I made this obligation to you. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It felt aligned, and it no longer does. And I'd like to renegotiate. Here's what I propose.
Yeah.
So I'm not going back on my word. And this happens before the deadline. It's
Yes.
not like after.
Yes.
Because that's a whole different conversation.
And actually, you're bringing another point in. If I can complicate this conversation, I want to stay on the point, but you're adding in the idea too of obligation to self. There's like perspectives within perspectives. And every time I like start talking about, or a lot of times when I start talking about something, other people will bring in elements that are obviously like active within me, but I hadn't really noticed. And that's a huge one. Obligation to self and maintaining integrity with yourself and your focus, and seeing sometimes emotions might not be the best benchmark for certain actions, right? You decide to commit to meditation every morning, which I can't see in any way, shape, or form how that would potentially be harmful. And the moment comes and you're like, no, I don't really like feel like it, because you're in a state of being or an emotion which isn't conducive to that, and then recognizing I made an obligation to myself and sticking with it no matter what, versus potentially like an outsider other person who's no longer wanting to play in that way. Yeah.
So what's your point about that? Like, honor the commitment or the feeling?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it becomes like sticky. I think I always look to say objectively and reasonably, what state of being am I in? And recognize when I'm in a joyful state of being, I'm acting in accordance with my highest truth. When I'm in a sad state of being and I no longer want to do something because I'm in that sad state of being, I feel like that's not going to be my highest self, and backing out is probably not the best thing to do. It's interesting how many other like smaller facets come into play in making some of these decisions. But my truth is my state of being is always what reigns supreme, and how I'm feeling emotionally right now overall is going to be indicative of how much I can trust the memories or the actions I want to take or anything. Because if I'm not feeling light and happy, I know I'm going to take actions and have memories that are not reflective of my truest self.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like, I love this example because I've experienced it so many times. And it has to do with how I stay in integrity with myself. So you ever have this conversation? You probably haven't, because you're thin and you're a guy. But in my mind, I have this conversation. I'll be sitting on the couch and I'm like watching a show and I'm like, gosh, I really want a bite of ice cream. So I'll go get a spoon, I get the ice cream out, and I grab a bite. So this is before. I used to do this. And then I would like sit down with my little spoon of ice cream, and then a few minutes would pass, my ice cream's gone. I'm like, dang, I really want another bite. So this goes on and on and on until I've eaten probably more than a bowl. And it occurred to me at some point, I am breaking my word to myself. I'm going to have one spoon of ice cream. I'm breaking my word to myself over and over and over every time I get up and go get another bite of ice cream. So when I learned this, I started implementing this new line of questioning to myself. Like, okay, is that really all you want? Will that satisfy you? Do you really only want one bite? And I check in with myself and I'm like, okay, no, I really want 2 bites. So I'll get 2 spoons and put it in a dang bowl. And then I'm done with it. And even if I want more after that, I'm like, no, you decided. You checked in with yourself. You said 1 or 2 bites. that you're finished. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then there's no more mind fuckery going on. It's like, I'm done with it. But before, what I was telling my subconscious mind, or what it was writing down on its little clipboard, was, I don't trust you. You said one bite and you had 20. Because I have no idea how many I had, but it does. It knows exactly how many I had. So I went back on my word 20 times, right?
Yeah.
So the next time I go to make an agreement with somebody, the subconscious mind is there, hey, remember last time? You're so full of crap. You know you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So why even bother trying? So it's a lot of people engage in self-sabotaging behaviors. It starts with something small, like those unspoken agreements you have with yourself. Like, I never said that out loud. It was all in my head. But the subconscious mind's got the clipboard. So it's like, really, for me, that was the beginning of learning to trust myself and knowing, like, when I say something, it is as good as done. My word is gold.
I like that. That's very cool evolution to recognize in yourself. And it's cool to see belief systems coming into play too. Food is an interesting topic for me because I created the most beautiful belief systems for myself surrounding food. Probably 50% of my diet is like candy, ice cream. My body is like, I like this stuff. I like process it and I make you muscle and I make you healthy and I give you endurance if you give me this because it makes me happy. My body was like, if it's delicious to eat, pleasure is power, eat it. And it's so interesting hearing other conversations around food. And it was like that common denominator that I found during my illness when I was like looking at what everyone did to heal different things. I go, shit, the only common denominator is they truly believe what they're like teaching, but there's no other common thread between everyone's, I don't know, celery juice I was doing for a while. Like it cured a bunch of people and then it killed a bunch of people and then everything, it did nothing for the largest group of people. And you're like,
It was the Heisenbergs.
right, yes, but that's exactly it. That's what it comes down to. Yes.
Like you are the placebo. Like, what do you choose it to mean?
Yes.
It's a symbol.
Yes. And I think this ties back, maybe Heisenberg also ties back to your idea of keeping your word with yourself, in the sense that you're picking a future point of self-integrity and playing it. Like, there's so many games one can play. Everything's a game and there's so many of them to be played. But it's more like intentionally playing all of them and knowing what you're doing while you're playing with them is the power.
And knowing you're playing a game
Yes,
to
knowing you're playing
begin
it.
with,
Yes.
instead of taking everything so fucking seriously.
Yes.
Because seriousness is of the ego, period. Our spirits, our true selves, are playful AF. So that's another way that I catch myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, this seems so serious.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, yep, you got me, ego. You got me. And then I just laugh. Like, and the second you recognize it, then you're free to choose again.
Yes. Bashar's first rule of enlightenment is to lighten up. And I always go back to that. And that's a great way to benchmark, too, what emotional state one is in by how serious. It does become comical. I recognize in great states of meditation or when I've worked myself up through appreciation to these amazing states, I can see why, like, you see like a military training and someone's like, son, you think this is a joke or whatever? And like, it literally becomes hysterical because the whole thing like is a game and you know it's a game and you know there's nothing serious. You know souls are eternal. Yes, you may take the experience of a non-preferred occurrence, but ultimately everyone is completely indestructible, eternal, and able to play whatever game they want forever. We're just playing probably one of the greatest games of all time, which is what I overall see life as, is we put ourselves down the deepest, darkest hole that creation ever created, and we're finding our way out by choosing the light. It's what I see as the game I'm playing. All games are equally valid. That's the game I'm playing. How many times in sadness and seriousness and lack, in pain, etc., can I choose the light when I'm surrounded by the dark? And that's the game that like invigorates me to play because yeah, I guess it's exciting. There's no way to explain it other than the sheer excitement, and excitement and joy is my truth.
And the dark times give us contrast to appreciate the light. So
Yes.
it's a matter of not resisting the dark, not resisting the sadness. I have some examples of this, of course. So I do hot yoga, and the first half of the class is standing, the second half is on the floor. And between every posture, there's a 20-second savasana. And if I have unprocessed emotions, I will often cry during that 20 seconds. And I go all in. I'm like, okay, let's go all in for 20 seconds. And I'm like, nobody can see that I'm crying because they're all lying down looking at the ceiling. And I'm so soaking wet that my tears probably look like whatever, except for the instructor. If they happen to look over and my chest is going, they can see that, right? But I don't care. I choose to go all in. And after that 20 seconds, it's that light switch. Okay, next, my focus changes. I'm doing the posture. I'm all in on that posture. And then if there's more unprocessed emotion, I'm on the ground crying again. But afterwards, like, I feel so light because I allowed myself to sit in it, even, for 20-second intervals. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but it allows those emotions movement. They move through me and they don't get stuck. And I think it's really beautiful to honor all of our emotions, not to get stuck in them. And one way, we've talked about this a few times, to not get stuck in them is, number one, set a timer. I did this when my mom died. I'm like, okay, I'm a single mom. I must work and I must parent my children. So 15 minutes, all right, let's go all in. And I would yell at God. I would scream. I'd punch a pillow. I'd cry. Timer would go off. I'd be like, all right, blow my nose. Go back to parenting. Go back to life. Don't sit there for days. I mean, unless you choose to, you're welcome to. And then, but I think a timer is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because you're honoring it, and then it's the light switch. Okay, boom, next.
I love that idea. And you maybe realize how much power you have to change your focus by playing with that intention. I'm going to give myself this time, and then like a light switch, I'm turning 180 degrees the opposite direction, or on or off. And then once you've practiced that a few times, if you find yourself unconsciously or unintentionally in a circumstance, you're like, wait a minute, I've done this a whole bunch of times. I can just flip the switch right now because I want to.
Yeah.
And I love your idea too about appreciating the dark, because in the context of everything being a game, you can't play a game of rediscovering your light without the darkness. It's half the game and half the beauty. So that is really cool recognition.
Yeah. And I think it's also important, when you're honoring your emotions and allowing them safe passage, doesn't mean you have to sit and have coffee with them. It's same with people that you don't prefer to be around. You could allow them safe passage through your mind, and you don't have to have coffee with them. You don't have to invite them in, like, oh, come and have a meal and beat the shit out of me, like, emotionally. No, you don't have to do that. You're like, hey, nice to see you. Not really. No. But it's the same in your mind, right? If they come in, you can just allow them to pass through. They don't have to stay and pull up a bench.
Beautiful. A bench in your house.
A bench in my mind. In my mind. That's the thing.
Is your mind a park? Because sometimes
It
my
is
mind's a park.
Yes.
There's puppies and birds.
Well, of
Anywho.
course there are. And bushes that you can hop, even in your mind.
Did we talk about that in a past podcast?
Yes,
Or
bush
just on the
hopping.
side? Bush hopping, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great refocus.
Yeah.
I love that I forget that I tell people stuff, and then they whiz it back at me. I'm like, wait, we discussed that?
No.
And then I'm always...
In my mind, we did.
Yes. I'm always impressed with myself with how much full disclosure I've given to people about nonsense stuff going on in my life, like bush hopping. So thank you.
I love bush hopping. It's a great idea.
Have you tried it yet?
No, but you know what I love to do is climb trees.
Really?
Yeah, I really love it. And there's a practice I do. I call it gathering, like men hunt, women gather.
Yeah.
So at night, sometimes I climb people's citrus trees and pick whatever fruit I want.
Is this real?
Yes.
Still, like today?
Well, yeah.
Like in the last
I like to do it
month?
at night because I do very few things that feel like, oh, this is sneaky. I could get caught. You know, like when you're a teenager having sex in your parents' house and they could come home.
Yes.
Well,
it
at
adds
least
that.
in my house. It's like that. It's like, what could I do that's sneaky? And, I don't climb people's fences and go in their backyards. I only climb their trees in their front and side yards. But I do climb them.
I love it. Wait, so is it more about the fruit and the night, or is it more about the climbing of the trees? Or both?
I don't know.
It's the whole
both.
package?
It's all of it.
Should we do an episode from a tree? I would love to climb a tree with you. I would so
We
love
could do
to.
that.
I used to climb trees when I was a kid, but I haven't in a long
Really?
time. Yeah.
I love climbing trees.
Yeah.
I also love rock hopping. I don't know what it is, like in a stream.
Yes.
I love it.
I totally get
Because
that.
it's like a puzzle in my mind. Like, okay, how can I get across without going in the water?
Yes.
Maybe it's because I grew up playing Frogger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That
So I
game's
gotta-
harder than I remember it. We were at some bar like a month or two ago that had an old arcade machine, and I was like, "Isn't this hard?" Like I made it to the second round and couldn't get past.
Oh, yeah. I can't play it anymore, probably.
Huh.
I used to. We went on a big tangent.
We should totally do an episode from a tree though. In case you haven't noticed, we're trying to move all around to different backgrounds in every episode. So a tree nighttime.
Would be a nighttime tree. How are we going to do lighting?
We'll work through the details.
Oh my gosh.
Surely a potential exists in the quantum where
Surely.
power is available in
We
a
could
tree.
even power it with our hands.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Or it'll be extra dark.
Or it would just be the audio only.
Yeah, the dark episode. We have one little light.
We talk
it's like
about
a
the
face
dark and the
showing up.
light. This would be the dark episode.
Yes, to give appreciation for that half the game. I'm also learning we probably should have silenced, or I should have silenced my cell phone. That was mine beeping before.
Yes, I noticed. That's all right. That's life.
Yes, that's like.
You know, this is life unedited. Stuff happens.
I like learning as we go, and I like not editing because I'm not excited to edit.
It does not create passion or excitement in me.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Do you want to hit anything else up, or are we feeling good for today? That's also me again. Oh, one more time.
One more time.
Place awareness on it, and more of it comes. Great example.
Yes.
Yes.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. We'll have some longer, some shorter, maybe.
Sure.
Is this
See how it goes.
Heisenberg?
We had a lot of fun today.
We did.
We always do.
It turns out Heisenberg isn't as fruitful as some other topics, but I love him. I think in 1927 was when he came up with this formula or whatever.
When John first mentioned this, I'm like, from Breaking Bad, Heisenberg?
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't watch Breaking Bad. I said, are you American? No, I didn't.
I couldn't get past that it was I watched Malcolm in the Middle and loved it, and I love the character of that guy on that show. And then all of a sudden he's like some drug cartel guy, and I was like, I can't, like it was too big of a bridge for me to hop.
Well, if you watch the first episode,
I'll get into it.
It's not such a big bridge,
All right.
but you must start from the beginning.
Maybe I'll give it a try. I'll see.
I mean, it's up to you. See how it feels.
I like that.
Exactly. Well, thanks for watching / listening.
Thank you. Love you guys.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.